Imagine waking up every morning not thinking about how to be perfect, but how to be real. Imagine a life where your worth isn't defined by how much you do, how flawless you appear, or how many people approve of you, but by the quiet courage of showing up as you are. This is the radical message at the heart of Brené Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection, a message that challenges everything we've been taught about success, strength, and self-worth. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to let go. Preface: Owning our story. Brené Brown begins by sharing a moment of realization. After years of researching shame and vulnerability, she found herself staring at two lists, one filled with words like joy, creativity, and love, the other with perfectionism, exhaustion, and scarcity. And painfully, she realized she was living straight down the second list. This moment of truth became her unraveling. What she once called a breakdown, her therapist reframed as a spiritual awakening. Through that journey, Brené discovered that living wholeheartedly isn't about becoming perfect. It's about embracing imperfection with courage, compassion, and connection. It's about loving yourself, not despite your flaws, but because of them. Wholehearted living. Wholehearted living means engaging in life from a place of worthiness. It's waking up and thinking, no matter what gets done today, I am enough. And going to bed knowing, I am imperfect, but brave and worthy of love. This isn't a one-time choice. It's a lifelong practice. A journey of cultivating courage, compassion, and connection. The three tools we need to navigate a world obsessed with image and perfection. Brené doesn't offer quick fixes or motivational slogans. Instead, she shows us how to dig deep, get deliberate, inspired, and going in ways that align with our values. Because wholeheartedness is not about pushing through. It's about being deliberate in thought, inspired in heart, and grounded in action. Chapter 1. Courage, Compassion, and Connection. The Gifts of Imperfection. Brown explores three essential gifts: courage, compassion, and connection. These aren't abstract ideals. They're daily practices. Courage once meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. It's not about grand heroics. It's about honesty. Ordinary courage is admitting when we're lost, scared, or uncertain, and doing it anyway. Compassion means to suffer with. It's not pity, it's presence. True compassion is standing beside someone in their darkness, without judgment or fixing. And it starts with being kind to ourselves. Connection is the energy that exists when we feel seen, heard, and valued. We are biologically wired for it. But real connection only happens when we let go of our masks and show our authentic selves. These gifts flourish only when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is not weakness. It's the birthplace of love, joy, and belonging. Chapter 2. Exploring love, belonging, and being enough. At the heart of every human life lies a single truth. We crave love and belonging. And the only thing that separates those who feel worthy of them from those who don't is belief. Brené's research reveals that worthiness has no prerequisites. Not, I'll be worthy when I lose weight. Not, I'll be enough if everyone approves. Worthiness starts now, exactly as you are. She defines love not as something we get, but something we grow. It's a spiritual connection that can only exist when both people are grounded in self-love. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. Belonging, she says, is not about fitting in. It's about being accepted for who you are. Fitting in requires us to change. Belonging demands that we be. Chapter 3. The things that get in the way. What blocks wholehearted living? Shame, fear, and the need for certainty. We numb ourselves from discomfort through busyness, food, perfection, or distraction. But in doing so, we also numb joy, creativity, and love. The real challenge is not to eliminate fear, but to feel it and move forward anyway. Brené calls this the courage to be imperfect. She reminds us that we can't selectively numb emotions. When we shut down pain, we also shut down joy. So instead of avoiding our feelings, we must lean into them, with honesty and curiosity. Guidepost number 1. Cultivating authenticity, letting go of what people think. Authenticity, Brené Brown explains, is not a one-time declaration. It's a daily practice, a conscious act of choosing to be real instead of perfect. It's about embracing who we are, not who others expect us to be. Every moment we decide to speak honestly rather than hide behind politeness, or choose vulnerability instead of pretending we have it all together, we strengthen our authenticity muscle. Brown reminds us that authenticity comes with risk. It means showing up even when others might judge, reject, or misunderstand us. But she argues that the pain of hiding is far worse than the discomfort of being seen. Authenticity is the quiet courage to say, "This is me." It's the freedom that comes when we stop performing for approval and start living for alignment. She encourages us to start small, by saying no when we mean no, by expressing our opinions even if they're unpopular, and by honoring our values instead of trying to fit in. The more we practice authenticity, the more resilient we become to criticism. Because the truth is, what people think will never define who we are. Our willingness to live truthfully does. Guidepost number 2. Cultivating self-compassion, letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism, according to Brown, is not the path to success. It's a trap that keeps us stuck in shame. It's the belief that if we look perfect, act perfect, and live perfectly, we can avoid blame, judgment, and failure. But in reality, perfectionism is driven by fear, not excellence. It's the enemy of growth. Self-compassion, however, transforms that fear into understanding. It means treating ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer to a struggling friend. Brown breaks self-compassion into 3 parts. Self-kindness, talking to ourselves gently instead of critically. Common humanity, recognizing that imperfection is a shared human experience, not a personal flaw. Mindfulness, observing our thoughts and emotions without over-identifying with them. When we practice self-compassion, we silence the voice that says, "Not enough," and replace it with, "I am doing my best." Brown's research shows that those who practice self-compassion are more resilient, less anxious, and far more motivated than perfectionists. Because compassion fuels progress, shame shuts it down. Guidepost number 3. Cultivating a resilient spirit, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. We live in a culture that celebrates avoidance, scrolling, shopping, drinking, working, all ways to numb discomfort. But Brené Brown warns that when we numb pain, we also numb joy. Wholehearted living requires us to feel fully, to stay awake to life even when it's messy. Resilience, she says, is not the absence of struggle. It's our ability to rise after falling. It's built on 3 key pillars. Hope, not blind optimism, but a belief that we can influence our future through effort and perseverance. Faith, trusting that we are never alone, even in uncertainty. Critical awareness, seeing through societal messages that tell us we're not enough. Brown reminds us that numbing is seductive. It offers quick relief, but long-term emptiness. The antidote is presence. When we replace numbing with mindful awareness, we reconnect with our emotions and rediscover our strength. A resilient spirit doesn't deny pain. It honors it as part of the human experience. Guidepost number 4. Cultivating gratitude and joy, letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. We often think joy is something that happens to us when things go well. But Brown discovered that the most joyful people are not those with the easiest lives. They're the ones who practice gratitude the most consistently. Scarcity whispers, "You're not enough. There's never enough." It makes us chase more success, more beauty, more control. But gratitude interrupts that narrative. It says, what I have, who I am, and what I experience today is enough. Brown notes that gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing blessings even amid struggle. It's saying thank you for a sunset, a laugh, or a moment of rest. Joy, she explains, is a spiritual practice that grows from gratitude. The more we name what we're thankful for, the more joy takes root in our hearts. She also speaks of foreboding joy, that instinct to brace for tragedy when life feels too good. We sabotage joy because we fear its loss. Her advice? When joy surfaces, lean in and say, "I'm grateful." Gratitude doesn't protect us from pain, but it anchors us in love. Guidepost number 5. Cultivating intuition and faith, letting go of the need for certainty. We crave certainty, it feels safe. But as Brené Brown points out, certainty is often an illusion. Life is unpredictable, and our obsession with control only feeds anxiety. The antidote lies in cultivating intuition and faith. Intuition, she explains, is not a mystical gift. It's the blending of instinct and reason. It's our body's wisdom combined with our mind's knowledge. Faith, on the other hand, is the courage to move forward even when we can't see the entire path. Trusting intuition means listening to the quiet signals we often ignore, the gut feeling, the subtle discomfort, the inner knowing that says this isn't right. Faith steps in when logic runs out, reminding us that uncertainty doesn't mean danger. It means possibility. Brown challenges us to redefine security, not as having all the answers, but as having the courage to live without them. When we surrender the need for certainty, we open ourselves to creativity, connection, and a life guided by trust instead of fear. Together, intuition and faith become our compass. They don't promise clarity, but they do promise direction. Guidepost number 6. Cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison. Brené Brown describes creativity as the expression of our soul, the act of making something that did not exist before. But comparison, she warns, is creativity's most effective poison. From childhood, we're often taught to measure ourselves against others. We begin to believe that creativity belongs only to the gifted few, the artists, musicians, or designers, while the rest of us simply aren't creative. Brown dismantles that myth completely. She reminds us that creativity is not a talent. It's a way of thinking and engaging with the world. It's problem-solving, imagination, and curiosity in action. When we compare our art, ideas, or achievements to others, we suffocate that spirit. Comparison says, "Why bother?" Creativity says, "Let's try." To cultivate creativity, Brown urges us to embrace our inner child, the part of us that love to doodle, build, or explore without fear of judgment. She encourages us to make time for creative play, to take small creative risks, and most importantly, to protect our creative energy from the opinions of others. Wholehearted people, she found, don't measure their creativity by external standards. They create because it brings them joy, because it's part of being alive. The opposite of comparison, she reminds us, is celebration, celebrating both our own work and the work of others. Guidepost number 7. Cultivating play and rest, letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as self-worth. In modern society, exhaustion has become a badge of honor. We equate busyness with importance and productivity with value. Brown calls this the hustle for worthiness. But the truth is our bodies and minds were never designed to be in constant motion. Play and rest, she argues, are not luxuries, they are necessities. Drawing on the research of Dr. Stuart Brown, she explains that play is purposeless activity that brings joy and engages our imagination. It's the birthplace of creativity, innovation, and connection. When we abandon play, we lose our sense of wonder. Rest, likewise, is not indulgence, it's how we refuel. Without rest, we burn out. Without play, we lose meaning. Wholehearted people set boundaries around their energy. They sleep when they're tired, say no to overcommitment, and allow themselves to laugh and play without guilt. Brown reminds us that true worth is not measured by how much we produce, but by how present we are in our own lives. Choosing play and rest is not laziness. It's a declaration that we are enough, even when we are still. Guidepost number 8. Cultivating calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Calm and stillness are often misunderstood. Many people think calm means being emotionless and stillness means doing nothing. But Brown defines calm as creating space between stimulus and response, the ability to pause and choose how we want to react. Stillness, she says, is not about inactivity. It's about quieting our minds and finding peace within. We live in a world that glorifies anxiety. We confuse being busy with being significant. But anxiety is not a lifestyle. It's a signal, a call to slow down. Brown encourages us to replace anxiety-driven living with deliberate practices of calm. This might mean breathing deeply before reacting, meditating, journaling, or simply spending time in nature. Wholehearted people practice calmness not because life is easy, but because they've learned that frenzy and fear don't create safety, they create chaos. When we learn to pause, we give ourselves permission to breathe, to think clearly, and to live from intention rather than impulse. Stillness becomes a grounding ritual, a moment to reconnect with who we are beneath the noise. Guidepost number 9. Cultivating meaningful work, letting go of self-doubt and supposed to. Meaningful work is not about titles, paychecks, or prestige. It's about purpose. It's the feeling that our efforts matter, that what we create or contribute reflects who we truly are. Brown emphasizes that meaningful work is deeply personal. It aligns with our values and allows us to use our gifts in service of something larger than ourselves. Yet, many of us are trapped in the cycle of supposed to. We follow paths others expect of us, stable careers, conventional choices, while our hearts quietly whisper for something else. Self-doubt becomes the gatekeeper between us and fulfillment. Brown reminds us that meaningful work is not always glamorous. It's often humble, steady, and deeply authentic. To find it, she suggests we reflect on what brings us energy rather than what drains it. What tasks make us lose track of time? What kind of contribution makes us proud? Wholehearted people take ownership of their gifts and put them to use. They stop asking, "What am I supposed to do?" and start asking, "What makes me come alive?" Because when our work and values align, we no longer chase purpose, we embody it. Guidepost number 10. Cultivating laughter, song, and dance, letting go of being cool and always in control. Brené Brown ends her guideposts with joy, the unfiltered, uninhibited kind that we often suppress in adulthood. Laughter, song, and dance, she says, are universal expressions of the soul. They connect us to our humanity, to each other, and to the divine spark within us. But as we grow older, we begin to armor up. We start caring about how we look, how we sound, whether we're being judged. We trade joy for composure. Brown calls this the tragedy of coolness. We choose control over connection, performance over play. But wholehearted people don't perform life, they participate in it. They laugh loudly, sing off-key, dance awkwardly, and live fully. They understand that joy and shame cannot coexist. When we embrace silliness, we silence shame. She encourages us to bring laughter, music, and movement back into our lives, to dance in the kitchen, sing in the car, and laugh until our stomachs hurt. Because these acts remind us that perfection isn't the point, presence is. Laughter heals, song unites, and dance frees. Together, they remind us that being alive is not something to manage, it's something to celebrate. Wholehearted living is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. We never truly arrive, but each act of courage, compassion, and connection moves us closer. Brené Brown leaves us with one powerful truth. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we will ever do. So, the next time you catch yourself striving to be perfect, remember, perfection is not the goal. Wholeness is. And the greatest gift you can ever give yourself is permission to be imperfect.